Lost Art with Andrew Cox podcast, Marine Corps League and Till Valhalla Project Ambassador. Now streaming on all major podcast platforms. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast that's given a voice to our veterans. The Lost Art with Andrew Cox. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Podcast, that podcast giving a voice to our veterans. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having a part 10 with our good friend Mike Fallon and his incredible story. But before we get into the episode, are you enjoying the podcast? And make sure you go to the website. That's the lostart.podbean.com. There are a couple of ways that you can help support us here at the podcast. You can go into that website. There's a couple of tabs. You can click on the one-time donation. You can click on the Become a Patron button, and that's a monthly donation. And you can click on the Purchase Merchandise, so you can go in there and get you some cool gear. And if you have a business and you want to advertise it, you can do it that way. Click on that. That's going to take you to where you need to go in order to promote your business. Big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project out there doing amazing things. If you don't know anything about them, go check them out at their website. They have some amazing stuff going on there. And you definitely want to be supporting these guys. But you can go to tillvalhallaproject.com. Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member. We are back. We got Mike here. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm having a good day here in Arizona. It's cooled down. We're only going to be 106 today.
Woo! Wow.
Yeah, so
it's cooled down quite a bit. 106, man.
Yeah, down from 118. So
oh my God.
You can actually do stuff when it's 106, and 118 you got to change your lifestyle and your behavior for sure. Hey AJ, your merchandise page. I just want to say that you had a really cool coffee cup on there with the legends of the Marine Corps. I think it had a picture of Chesty, and
it did.
And a couple of. Well, that's sold out, man.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'll have to get with the wife. So the wife actually runs that whole site, but I'll have to get with her. There's a bunch of cool stuff on there.
I do. I was looking for stuff, and for old Marines, sometimes you got one of everything. And I actually had not seen that coffee cup before, so I said, I'm going to get me one of them Legends coffee cups. And I went down there and clicked it, and it said, we're out of stock. I went, Anyway, a couple episodes back, I'm sorry, we talked about Desert Shield and Desert Storm, and I had captured in my thoughts 3 takeaways that I meant to tell that episode. So I'm going to tell them now in case somebody watched that episode and are still watching. When we came home, my 3 takeaways were that the Marines, all the Marines, were very professional over in Saudi Arabia regarding their culture and professional behavior. And then for their profession at arms, they kicked ass. It was a one-sided bar fight. And when you go to war, you want every war to be one-sided on your side. The second takeaway was the Kuwaitis, the population and the country and their leadership, they were a grateful nation to our nation and the Marines in particular, because in Desert Storm, the KTO, Kuwaiti Theater of Operation, that was all Marine Corps. There weren't any Army units. It was 2 Marine divisions and a the largest air wing the Marine Corps has ever had,
Right.
against 8 Iraqi divisions and a pretty substantial air defense
Mhm.
organization, which our air wing basically and our artillery knocked down. So the Kuwaitis were very grateful. And for those, it seems like yesterday, but it's over 30 years ago.
Right.
We got a Kuwait campaign medal, so we got some crossed silver swords and the colors of Kuwait on that, and they were a grateful nation. The last is our nation, the United States, was a grateful nation, and the families of Marines got some respect and some recognition
Mhm.
for the hard work they do when Marines deploy. So it was a very supportive atmosphere, and we talked about the parades. They were great, and
Mhm.
the people in the country took care of Marines and veterans for a while. I think, as you know, maybe they've short-term memory loss. We're not at war, so they've kind
Right.
of forgotten that the armed forces and the veterans serve every day overseas, standing vigil,
Right.
so they can exercise their First Amendment
Mhm.
rights. I was trying to think of the way to say that politely. Um, so anyway, thanks for letting me get my little Desert Storm post Desert Storm editorial in. We were talking about my career, which didn't amount to too much. I
Oh,
always,
it amounted to quite a bit for me. I don't know.
well,
I enjoy it.
I am not the smartest apple on the tree, but I might be the guy that always tried to work the hardest
Right.
um, and put the hours in. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can work a lot of hours and do the same thing. I tried not to do that, but I was be the first guy at work and be the last guy home, and probably to the detriment of my family. I,
Mm.
especially on recruiting duty when I was running scared,
Right.
I made up for it by putting a lot of hours in. Anyway, the last episode we finished up. I had 2 great years at Weapons and Field Training Battalion
Mhm.
at Edson Range on the West Coast, 32 area, Camp Pendleton. Edson Range, of course, named for the great Marine raider of World War II, uh, Red, or Mike Red Edson Red,
Right.
because he had fiery red hair, and he led one of the Ranger battalions. I want to say it was the first Raider Battalion. I
Mhm.
said Ranger. I meant to say Raider. First Raider Battalion.
Right.
Uh, Carlson, of course, led the second Raider Battalion. Now we know we have them back. We have
That's
Raider
right.
battalions back in MARSOC.
Mhm.
It's really a good thing for the Marine Corps. It's a good thing for the nation because the Raider, Marines are always paranoid with a chip
Right.
on the shoulder. So the Raider battalions perform at an elite, at tier 1 level in my estimation. Of course, I'm
Right.
prejudiced. Anyway, we leave Edson Range, and I get that great call from the monitor that says, your overseas control date is getting a little senior. And so for those who are not steeped in Marine Corps, an overseas control date is the date you last came home from being overseas. And they just keep a long list by your rank
Right.
and military occupational specialty. And the deal is when your turn comes up, you got to go again. And of course, go again normally means Okinawa.
Mm.
And, Okinawa is a well-kept secret. They give you the choice to go alone, which is why it has a bad reputation.
Mm-hmm.
If you go by yourself, you go in what's called unaccompanied.
Right.
It means you leave your family at home with the grandparents, and you go over there for 13 months, and you work your job from dawn to dusk, and that's an unaccompanied tour. But the cadre of all the units over there
Mm-hmm.
go accompanied for a 3-year tour,
Right.
and the families that get over there uh, find out that, oh, what a great life it is on Okinawa for 2 reasons. When you're on base, it's little America,
Mm-hmm.
and most of the services are run by the Air Force on Oki. So that's a high level of service for the military family. You get the Department of Defense school systems.
Right.
So
Yeah.
DoD school systems for grade school and high school, that is equal to a good private Catholic school in the
Mm-hmm.
United States. It might not be 5-star elite where you pay 15,000 or 20,000 for a person to go to that we can't afford, but
Right.
it's a great education. Crime on Okinawa is zero. Um, it's because, you know, there's one commercial airport and
Mm-hmm.
there's one Marine Corps airport. And if you do something wrong, you're on an island, right? You're going
Right.
to get caught. Um, the Okinawa people are beautiful people, and they're from a tribe called the Ryukyans. And that's a tribe within the Japanese that the Japanese look down upon, frown upon,
Mm-hmm.
treat as second class citizens. Think of our relationship of white middle class America during the Jim Crow era toward blacks in America.
Right.
Yeah, the blacks were citizens, and the Jim Crow laws created a secondary standard.
Mm-hmm.
There are 49 provinces in Japan. Okinawa is the, I shouldn't say this because you'll get hate mail. AJ, they're the Mississippi of Japan. They're the 49th ranked in economy
Mm.
and education.
Right.
They're also the furthest away.
Mm-hmm.
So the island of Okinawa is a precept. Is they've really got about 25 islands, but the big island's pretty big, and the Ryukyu people live there. But you're 1,500 nautical miles from Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
so you know it's halfway across the United States. It's
Right.
it's Iowa to New England distance, and until recently, the Okinawans could only afford to go to the mainland by boat, and
Right.
when World War II was over and they were forced to sign a peace treaty, of course they lost. It over time said that the U.S. forces would step down. Now, don't hold me to it today,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to say 80,000 U.S. forces could be based in Japan. And because Japan was uh, far away, the Air Force and the Navy said, well, we'll take the good stuff up by Tokyo. And there's a great naval base up by Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
home of the 7th Fleet, Yokosuka, Japan. And at a Marine Corps air station up there. But the Japanese pulled a fast one. They said 50,000 soldiers and Marines. You could be home ported in Japan, and your home base would be Okinawa. And so they didn't want an occupation force around Tokyo.
Right.
And so they put 50,000 Americans on Okinawa that overwhelmed the island population at the time
Mm-hmm.
and the culture. Now there's a dual culture. A lot of Marines found happiness and did what we call homesteading.
Mm-hmm.
And if you called your monitor and said you wanted to stay in Okinawa, that saved the monitor a call to about 20 people trying to
Mm-hmm.
talk them into going back in the day. And
Right.
so lots of people homesteaded. So anyway, I got the choice. I was a relatively baby colonel, 2 years in, and had my command tour checked. I had to go to a staff.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to go to a big Pentagon headquarters staff. My overseas control date was mature. That's like a real estate word, meaning time for me to go. And the monitor said, hey, you can go for 1 year and the general decide what you want to do, or you can go for 3. And I called my buddy, who we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
Casey Roberts, who bailed me out of recruiting when we were both majors.
Right.
I don't know that I talked about him, but we were both first lieutenants in the same company in the 1st Reconnaissance Battalion as first lieutenants.
Okay.
So then we're majors on recruiting duty. And then at MCRD San Diego, when I'm the G1, he's the colonel in charge of recruiting. Well, his next tour was he went to Okinawa
Mm-hmm.
on a 3-year tour. And of course, he preceded me by 2 years because I went up to take hits and rain. He said, best thing we ever done.
Nice.
Base quarters are great. Living's great. He said, nobody tells you about the scuba diving. And he said, you got to come over here because my dive partner's transferring. I need a new recreation scuba dive guy. And of course, we're both Navy qualified, but Okinawa is in the top 5 in the world in scuba diving. It's a hard rock island with a reef on 2 of the 2 sides. It's really like a football. There's not a north and a south. It comes to pointy ends, and the reef just drops straight off. And so there is super shore diving. I mean, you can walk in, and as long as you don't cut your feet, that's supposed to walk in a reef.
Yeah.
But you can try to go in 3 or 4 inches of water and get in the water and drop off the reef in Oki and go to
Mm-hmm.
120, where the light starts to fade out, and you got tropical fish. I mean, so we signed up for
Beautiful.
3 years, packed up the family, went to Okinawa, got a good set of quarters, and I was fortunate. I've always been an operator, so I became the G3, G7 for the 3rd Marine Expeditionary with an E
Okay.
force. So I had a staff that ran operations, training, and exercises.
Mm-hmm.
Daily staff was a big staff. The G7 was the Special Operations Training Group,
Oh, I
which was
see.
the group that was required to certify and train the components of the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit.
Mm-hmm.
It got filled with UDP units coming over, but still had to composite on island
Mm-hmm.
and pick up a staff and go through all the mission events to get certified, and final certification is a practical application of each of the missions that
Right.
they're required to partake. So for being a Marine, doing some fun stuff. Training, you try to push training down on the units,
Mm-hmm.
let units do their own training. Okinawa up north has got the infamous Northern Training Area,
Right.
NTA, comes under Marine Corps Base Japan, but all the units that rotate through it are ground and some aviation units. Get to go up into one of the few places in the world where you can still go double canopy jungle and
Right.
get bit by a pit viper or a python, or have some monkeys come through and yell at you. Uh, NTA's got a training cadre that lives up there, usually headed by a high-end major, 0302
Mm-hmm.
grunt. Um, Fun place to go train. Uh, so I had great training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll stay on training for a minute. When you wanted to do cold weather training, you went to Hokkaido, Japan, which is 3,000 miles north of Okinawa,
Okay.
across the water from the Sakhalin Peninsula, which is Russia. And
Ah, okay.
it is on the peninsula. And there's a sea inside that peninsula that escapes me right now. But there's also the Western Soviet submarine fleet, the Pacific submarine fleet up there, and cold weather training up in Hokkaido, Japan, really good. Of course, we'd fly to Korea. We maintained a Marine expeditionary camp down in Pohang
Mm-hmm.
with a cadre. Mr. Kim runs the Marine shop on Pohang. Every Marine senior staff, NCO, and officer for the last 50 years knows Mr. Kim. Great little shop for picking up plaques and souvenirs.
Right.
Nice stuff for ladies. Marine Airfield number 5 is the airfield. It's a dual use airfield with the city of Pohang, which is now a you know 300,000 people.
Uh-huh.
It got to be Marine Airfield number 5 when we built it in Korea during the Korea War,
Okay.
and it still is Marine Airfield number 5. We still do a big exercise up there. Usually try to go up and unload one of the MPF ships up in Pohang to shake the cobwebs off, unloading
Yeah.
the Merit MPF ladies Maritime Preposition Force, all our equipment on it, what we used to get our tanks and Amtracs in Desert Storm,
Mm-hmm.
more than one squadron in Desert Storm. For a Pohang exercise, we pull the squadron home based in Tinian and pull a ship or 2 ships over and have the Force Service Support Group lads come up there and unload it on the beach and take the gear over to Marine camp at Pohang, where we got some live fire ranges.
Mm-hmm.
Co-located there, of course, we have the Royal's British Republic of Korea
Mm-hmm.
Marine Corps Division and the Republic of Korea Marine Corps in the war plans. Many times, operationally, comes under the U.S. Marine Corps in the
Mm-hmm.
big campaigns at the Marine Expeditionary Force level. So 3 MEF and 1 MEF in Camp Pendleton get to exercise headquarters elements in
Mm-hmm.
Korea. And so always a great place and a great ally. Of course, the Koreans, uh, we fought, the Blue Diamond and Chesty
Right.
Puller and the boys coming back from Chosin,
Mm-hmm.
1950 to 54. The Blue Diamond, 1st Marine Division. The Marines have been there ever since. Uh, the 2nd Republic of Korea Marine Corps Brigade came to Vietnam, was home based in Hoi An, and we coordinated operations
Mm-hmm.
with them, which meant they had their own area, but they commanded their own forces. We had a great relationship with their reconnaissance unit and did cross training between the Rock Marine recon teams and our teams.
Right.
So, some old home week for me. Um, and then I'll come back to Crete in a minute. The third thing we did in the 3 shop is we ran the exercises, and the exercises in the Pacific Ocean were part of a Indo-Pacific strategy. Indo-PACOM is the Indo-Pacific 4-star command headed by a Navy admiral in Hawaii on a Marine Corps base called Camp Smith,
Mm-hmm.
nice Marine Corps base, up on the side of the mountain there overlooking Pearl Harbor.
Right.
Um, the strategic plan says we're going to do exercises with every country that's friendly to us as many times as we can, because that builds good bridges and relationships. So, on a normal year, the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force and its subordinate units does 119 exercises. And what that means is the money for those exercises to the subordinate units comes from the big 3MEF. Also, the airlift hours or the sea lift steaming days to get you to that country. The Pacific is big,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the exercises are big, regimental size and air air squadron and group size, and uh, some are small. Engineering detachment on an island in the Philippines. What a great deal for a Marine captain, a Marine warrant officer,
Right.
group 30 engineers to take a couple of cat bulldozers and some demolitions and go to PI for 3 or 4 months and build something that
Mm-hmm.
they need, but get your training.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 shop was on the road traveling, and you got to see everything from southern Australia to the Hokkaido Straits there, north of Hokkaido, Japan,
Mm-hmm.
looking through a pair of binoculars at Russia, and everybody between India and, you know, the scattered islands in the southern Pacific.
Right.
But to digress, I said the southern reminded me of going down to, there's an island that's really a U.S. territory. It's not even really an island. It's an atoll.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Kwajalein, and it's a U.S. territory. And the only people, I think I got this right, that live on Kwajalein are military or DoD civilians.
Mm-hmm.
And it is the downwind. And when you say downwind, I mean, it's not like you cut a fart in your downwind. It's it's like 9,000 miles downwind from Vandergrift Air Force Base, now Vandergrift Space Command base there north of Los Angeles.
Right.
And that's their impact range, downrange when they do a liftoff to test a missile that's intercontinental ballistic.
Mm-hmm.
You launch it at Vandergrift, downwind is Kwajalein. So there is the military, when there's a joint organization, many times for logistics, signs an executive agent.
Mm-hmm.
The Department of the Army is the executive agent for
Good.
Kwajalein. I don't know why they got that designation after World War II, probably because they were there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big airfield down there and big radars for downwind, NASA, Space Command stuff. So the 3 shop has an air officer who's a colonel aviator. And once a month, I'd have him come in. He run the aviation side, but come in, we sit have coffee, and I say, "What's going on?" And I'm looking at flight hours for the C-130 squadron.
Right.
And the reason I'm interested is, besides aviation flight hours, they're the workhorse of the MEF in the Pacific.
Right.
Because the distances are so far. We can move the grunts. We can move an aviation support unit. We can move a logistics FARP, FARP, forward area rearming point, ladies. We can move a detachment from the band. And, I would say that the bands multiple in Okinawa when I was there
Mm-hmm.
got more road time than the varsity in DC. And
Yeah,
maybe
there's a
they
lot
get
of
more
travel in there.
music time. Varsity gets a lot of home games.
Yeah,
Play home games for the president, at the White
that's right.
House. Or get to go over to Kennedy Center. Those bands out in Okie, they get to go down and play Waltzing Matilda, where they invented it in New Zealand, at
Mm-hmm.
least once a year.
Yeah.
Sign me up for the Marine Band in Okie to go to New Zealand once a year and do Liberty as a Marine, where the Blue Diamond composited and trained
Right.
before they took the island hopping campaign north all the way to Okinawa
Mm-hmm.
80 years ago. So I'm looking at Kwajalein and I'm saying once a week, one C-130 goes to Kwajalein.
Okay.
And that's like they got to take 2 flight crews and they got to take a bag inside, a
Mm-hmm.
bag of fuel. I
Okay.
want to say it's 13 or 14 hours for those bubbas.
Whew.
And it's once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to the air officer, why are they doing that? Well, I don't want to give you the wrong answer. Let me check. He's a good guy. He was a Hilo guy, so he didn't know any more than I did. He calls over to C-130 and they call him back and they say, well, we got to get our over ocean night navigation training.
Mm.
And I said, well, what does that entail? In the Marine Corps C-130s, and I can't speak to the J models,
Mm-hmm.
but on every model before C-130J,
Right.
the J's may have them. They made Lockheed Martin punch a hole in the fuselage up there in the cockpit
Yeah.
for a billet called Navigator, little side table. And in that hole, they put a pipe, and they put a screw on it on the inside and a plug. I guess they put a lens in it
Uh-huh.
so it didn't decompress. And the navigator had to screw his sexton, not sex ladies, sexton, in to do night navigation to look at the stars, and the test was, could they hit quadrilline? Well,
Wow.
I think they cheated. Quadrilline has got more electronics lit up 24/7 than anybody and his brother. They had a direction finder from Radio Shack. You could find it. So I'm telling that story to my friend Casey Roberts, who's, I've probably been there 6 months, and we're scuba diving partners. I'm an Irish Catholic. That means I'm a very devout Catholic, and
Right.
I write my check to the Catholic Church, and I raise my children in the Catholic religion, and they go to catechism and on Wednesday, and they go to church every week, and I go to church on Christmas and Easter. So on Sunday morning, Casey Roberts' morning off from his family, and we would go scuba diving.
Oh, okay.
And then to take care of the ladies, we would take them to brunch at the officers club. They had a high class walk through 27 dishes, uh, Oriental to old time middle America brunch. So you could actually cook your own Belgian waffles, or you could get a hot dog out of the steamer. And the old club at Camp Butler was up on a rise that overlooked the water, and
Yeah.
we always got the same table. Our two families would sit together and graze for a couple hours. I asked him, Casey, I said, those guys from the Wayne, they're going to Kwajalein for this night navigation thing. He says, don't let them bullshit you. They're going to Kwajalein so they can go grab lobsters and bring them back and cook lobsters for their steak and lobster night once a week. They're best lobsters in the Southern Pacific. So they put 4 scuba divers on there, and that's just a justification to go get their lobsters. So leave it
That's
to
good.
the wing. But they were getting their training. Really good. I don't know if it was good or bad. I ended up going through 5 Marine Expeditionary Force commanders.
Wow.
My second for a year was, well, when I was there initially, it was a 2-star billet.
Uh-huh.
It's a 3-star billet today, so it was a grooming billet. Sometimes they left a 2-star there for 1 year.
Oh, I see.
Had him on the fast track. When I got there, I picked up a guy who was departing. That was good. Learned from him for about 3 months. The next guy in was Major General Carlton Fulford. And Fulford, if you all go back to Desert Storm, as a colonel, was the commander of Task Force Ripper, built around the 7th Marine Regimental Headquarters.
Right.
And so we had a good operational relationship, and he came and did it for a year and moved on to get his 3rd star. And then ultimately, I think my memory's correct, he retired at 4. I need to double check that one rather than me promote him. I'll double check it and correct myself somewhere, or somebody, if they ever watching this from the Marine Corps History Division, they'll know for sure. The next guy I got was just a legend in the Marine Corps, and his name is Wayne Rollins. And good Wayne Rollins and I go back to when he was a 1st lieutenant. at First Force Recon in Vietnam, and at the time I was over at First Reconnaissance Battalion, and we came up in the Marine Corps together, and we had a unbelievable trusting relationship where he let me run the operations and
Nice.
he did the politics, the military politics
Right.
that eat up so much of a general's time.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Far East, when you make a trip to a foreign country,
Right.
the senior military commander has to meet the country's senior military. And even if you're doing a refueling stop, you tell them in advance and they come out because we're Americans. They want our good relations. They shake your hand and ask you if you want tea. And if you're going to do an exercise, protocol is you have to go drink tea and meet with their ministers,
Right.
usually the senior executive of the country. So
Mm-hmm.
luckily, there's a protocol officer up in a head shed of the Marine Expeditionary Force that handles that for an exercise. And we'd fly in together usually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the MEF, uh, the wing that supports the MEF out there, first wing, had a T-39 aircraft because the distances were so long, and a little Lear-like jet. I got the privilege of flying in that with the general or without the general because we went to so many places.
Right.
But he would go off and drink tea, and I would get to go talk to the operations officer of Borneo
Right.
or the Philippine Army
Mm-hmm.
or down under meeting with our mates, the Australians. Somebody had to go do it, so I always volunteered. Uh,
Yeah. You took one for the team.
I did, AJ. We had a bullpen. Actually, it was a big conference room with 22 officers in it, majors and lieutenant colonels,
Uh-huh.
that were portfolio holders for exercises. So
Uh-huh.
each lieutenant colonel or major would have 4 or 5 countries and 20 exercises
Oh wow.
that he shepherded. Every exercise as a pacing movement of an initial planning conference,
All right.
usually in the host country, a middle planning conference,
Mm-hmm.
usually at one of the away teams' better destinations because the host country wants to go there, read many times the MPC,
Mm-hmm.
acronym ladies, Middle Planning Conference, had to be in Hawaii, not because we wanted it there, but the Thais wanted to go to Hawaii for the
Right.
Middle Planning Conference. Final planning conference, when you hit the table, everybody signs what they're going to do in contracts.
Right.
FPC is always in the host country and the host province.
Mm.
And generally, you move exercises between provinces
Mm-hmm.
to spread the wealth around. So when you went to Thailand annually for Cobra Gold,
Right.
which was a joint exercise, JTF, over 100,000 participants every year.
Mm-hmm.
The Thais had policies on everybody that came to visit, and they rotated between that you could train in the jungle, you couldn't sleep in the jungle. But
That's weird.
yeah, well, that means you have to rent a hotel from the Thais in town, and you
Uh,
have to rent buses from the Thais. So if you're a Marine Rifle Company and you're going on a 2-week exercise, the final 3 days might have been negotiated on 2 nights overnight,
yeah.
but all the pre-training and all the buildup and as many days as the ties can milk, you're in a hotel,
Wow. Yeah.
which is like, it's really good from two perspectives. It's good for the Marines because
Uh-huh.
they get liberty in the culture. It's good for the young leaders
Mm-hmm.
because they get a leadership experience controlling in a positive way,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's 3 Marines in a fire team in their herd when they're going on Wednesday night liberty, got sounded at 1900.
Right.
Okay, you get till midnight, but so what? You can still go to town,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, the fire team leader's in charge
Right.
until he blows it. But it spreads the money around the Thai provinces um, for Cobra Gold,
Mm-hmm.
and you get some great cross training. And the key to cross training is, and we learn this for real um, when we were young with our allies in Desert Shield, and
Mm-hmm.
where young Jim Mattis learned it, to rely on your allies. At the first time you meet them, you say, what are you guys really good at? And
Mm.
what do you guys like to do?
Right.
And instead of being big, ugly Americans, if they say, we're really good at training cobra snakes and giving first aid for when you get bit by a cobra,
Right.
we ought to put that on a training schedule and let the Thai Marine Corps teach that one.
Right.
We shouldn't say, hey, I got some Army veterinarian from the 5th Special Forces Group on Okinawa thinks
Right.
he's a Cobra guy. He might be, but he's not teaching it in Thailand.
Yeah.
Not an exercise named Cobra Gold, where you get ball caps that are black ball caps with big gold cobras sticking
Yeah.
up, going, Cobra Gold. Really, so you learn to trust your allies, and you learn
Mm-hmm.
to work with them on what they do good.
Right.
And when it comes time when the shooting starts, maybe they do the same thing that they do good, or you've seen them demonstrate that they're very competent in. That's why you exercise and train together, is to build trust and confidence in each other, because it's
Mhm.
not, is there going to be a war? It's just, when is the next one?
Right.
And how big is it going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Small to big. And it's one thing about humanity and the globe. There's always a war going on,
Mm-hmm.
365, somewhere in the globe. I looked last week, not for this podcast, but I think there were 27 hot ones going on right now.
Oh wow.
Everybody follows Ukraine and Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Central Africa, there's some big time shooting wars
Yeah.
going on to control Central Africa. The north south uh, routes that are the routes for the smuggling routes
Mm.
across the desert for human smuggling, drug smuggling, coming out of Central Africa, going toward the Mediterranean. Wars everywhere. So if you're a Marine, you're in a good business. If you
Right.
become a career Marine, you're going to go to war, and that's not a good thing. But all Marines want to go to war only until they've been to war. And then when they've really been to war, they just want to train their Marines, because hard training will save you blood and
Mm.
life later on. So
Very
anyway,
cool.
get back to 3MEF. We did training all the place. So the good Wayne Rollins, he became famous in the Marine Corps as a captain. He was with Second Force, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and he decided that the Force Recon physical fitness standards weren't good enough. So he decided that he would set the world sit-up record. And as a captain, he became famous in the Marine Corps and in Ripley's, believe it or not, for doing the most sit-ups.
Right.
So he became known as Wayne Sit-Up Rollins. And I used to be able to quote it. I can't quote it. I don't even know. He's passed just a couple years back.
Okay.
But one of the best troop leaders at squad and below I've ever met, and I mean that as a true compliment. Of course, he was a Mustang enlisted Marine and was a drill instructor at Paris Island as a corporal, made meritorious sergeant there,
Wow.
with a couple other meritorious famous Marines, Colonel Billy Steed, who was General Walt Boomer's chief of staff in the Gulf War.
Okay.
It's another Mustang sergeant drill instructor with Wayne, and there was two other ones, and I'm losing it in my head right now. But all the old school Marines knew those guys, and so we're taking the T-39 to Korea. It's me and the general and the Meth Sergeant Major and the aide, and I got two exercise officers. It's about an hour and a half up to. We used to launch out of Fatima Air Station and go to the Air Force Base at Kunsan to refuel because it's on the eastern side of Korea.
Okay.
It's south, closer to Okinawa. Was always a refueling stop. And then we would do a little short hop over to Marine Airfield 5 to Pohang, talk to the Marines who were training there, and then go up and land in an airfield called K2, which is a Korean military airfield outside of Seoul. And you'd land at K2 and go in and visit the CFC Commander Forces Command Korea, CFC Korea. It's always an Army, U.S. Army 4-star. You had to go up, since you were in his war plan, you had to go see him. So there are not very many training ranges for aviation in Japan based on treaty. There are some pretty good live fire aviation training ranges in Korea based on treaty, because we learned our lesson after the Second World War. We didn't write in training ranges. After Korea, we wrote in training ranges. So if you're an F-18 squadron at Naval Air Station Iwakuni, you can do touch and goes there. And there's a carrier there, so if it puts to sea, you can go out and do some carrier quals. But you want to fire rockets and drop even blue bombs. You get blue bombs, lady. That's a inert bomb. They can go on a smaller training range, costs less money. Got a blue nose, so you know it's an inert bomb. Sometimes, if they made it right, you get a powder puff at the impact that's light blue. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's powder puff dirt because you hit dirt. So there's usually an F-18 squadron there at Kunsan. So we're flying up there, and I'm having a soft drink with General Rollins. I say, hey, boss, it's customary while the crew is refueling a plane that we go and meet the squadron that's here, and they know we're coming for a refueling stop, 20-minute stop. They gather all the officers in the ready room, and you go brief the officers. You don't brief them, you just go talk to them. And then Sergeant Major talks to all the staff NCOs, and I usually meet with the 3 shop and talk about their next 2 or 3 deployments, because when a squadron's in Japan, their goal is to get off island, fly somewhere so they can do real training. And flying from there to the Philippines or there to Australia, every squadron got 1 to each, was a lot better than, the short hop over. So that's how we usually do it. And he goes, yeah. Mike, I really don't like aviators. And so I'm not sure about that. What else is going on? They said, well, sometimes we walk the flight line. I said, okay. So he doesn't say anything else. Now, since we're going to see CFC up at, we're wearing Charlies.
Okay.
And I'm talking about drill instructor Charlies, because you're with Wayne Rollins, everything was creased.
Yeah.
And Charlies, and so we got Charlies, and we got, what we call in Enrique ribbons and badges, and of course Wayne's got a chest as big as chesty puller, sitting there with some really high-end ribbons. And so they let when the door opens on the T-39, the door is the ladder well. It just goes down on 2 metal cables.
Right.
The last step, sometimes 18 inches to the tarmac. We get to the tarmac, and you always let the general go first, and he stops, and I always let the sergeant major go second because he's with the general. I go third, and they stopped, and we get there, and Wayne turns around to us. Now, meanwhile, here's a Air Force officer, Lieutenant Colonel, duty officer for the, standing there saluting, and Wayne turns his back on him just to keep him standing there. It says, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is the plan. Sergeant Major, you go brief the staff NCOs. Got it, sir. Fallon, you go to the ready room and brief the officers on all their upcoming exercise. Sir, they want to see you. Fallon, you're briefing the officers. So I'll walk the flight line. Okay, we get 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So he turns around, dismisses the protocol officer, wants him to go to the Air Force lounge and feed him donuts and coffee. He dismisses them. He does a dog leg, walks over to the Marine F-18s. I go in, tell the squadron officers there, I'm here to tell you, and the squadron commander, where's the general? He's got every officer in the squadron.
Yeah.
He said, oh, he's walking a flight line. And you'd have think that I'd dropped a smoke grenade or something. Boom. The maintenance officer, who's a major, right?
Yeah.
He's out to the flight line. The general's on the flight line, So I talk to him, answer questions about 15 minutes. I go back to the T-39, go up, check with the pilots. We good to go? We ready to go? We're going to Airfield 5 next. And I go back, sit down, get a cup of ice water because it's humid and hot. Korea summer, and Sergeant Major comes, he gets on, and exercise officers are on. Everybody's on except the general. Crew chief is on. And I said to the Sergeant Major, where's the general? Sergeant Major looked at me and said, I thought you were watching him. I said, Sergeant Major, I had to go brief the officers. He said, I had to go brief the staff NCOs. I said, okay, I'll find him. So I go out and I start walking down a flight line. And at the second aircraft, I bump into the major, who's the maintenance officer, and I said, "Hey, do you know where the general is?" "Oh yeah, he's 4 aircraft down." Um, he told me twice. I finally took the hint that he really didn't need me and didn't want me. That he could handle it. I said, "What's he doing?" "Well, he's on a roller dolly. You know, those wooden dollies that you slide underneath your car when
Right.
you want to do maintenance under your car that got those real ball bearings in them. They're
Mm-hmm.
like 2 inches off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the roller dollies, the mech shoes, the mechanic shoes, underneath the plane sometime when they're working on the brakes and hydraulics and electronic stuff. I don't know. Well, he's down there underneath aircraft dash '05 talking to Lance Corporal Hernandez. They're yucking it up. So I go down there and I look underneath the aircraft, and there's Hernandez. And of course, he's got a zipper gray jumpsuit
Uh-huh.
zipped up. He's got his collar up.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a hat on that looks like a chopped off baseball hat to keep the grease out of his hair. And I look over and I say, "Hey, General, we got to go. We got a takeoff time. We got a whole infantry battalion." "Hey, Fallon, this is the best thing since NASCAR. You should see these guys under here. We're doing hydraulics. Lance Corporal Hernandez let me help him change something." And I look down there and he comes rolling out. He's got his Charlies on. He's got at least a gallon or a half gallon hydraulic fuel.
Oh no.
Pants, shirt, ribbons, totally trashed the fuck out. I mean, they are gone. And he is in high heaven because he has discovered the way he is going to talk to the air wing as a senior general officer. He's going to do it through enlisted maintenance guys who
Yeah.
every pilot in the Marine Corps knows, takes care of forever.
Right.
And he can avoid talking to Marine Corps pilots, which he didn't like to do. Partly, I think he had an inferiority complex on it. I don't know. He had jump wings and a scuba badge. Maybe he wanted pilot's wings. So we go back. He kept it for 2 years. The next 2 years, he wouldn't go to Kunsan unless there was an F-18 squadron there. And he learned his lesson, though. He always brought. He got a maintenance jumpsuit there. You could zip it down to your crotch all the way up. He just he's a drill instructor. He already had a clean set of utilities and another set of Charlies with another whole set of ribbons.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't. We're going on an overnight to Korea, right? Yeah, I got my shaving kit, my ditty bag, and about 27 boxes of classified documents I got to keep track of. We go into runway 5 at Bohang and go up there, and we drive over to the expeditionary, Marine Expeditionary Camp to see the battalion landing team. And he said, "Before we do that stop, we got to see Mr. Kim." So we stop at Kim's place, and he goes in there. He takes his Charlie's, his ribbons, and his pants, and he just gives them to Kim, who thinks it's laundry. He said, "Nope, that's hydraulic fuel. Find me the same size and cut it to my measurements." Everything was cut, right?
Yeah.
And put the extra girders in it, and then give me a new set of ribbons. So Kim already had everything for Major General Wayne Rollins. He had a diagram of all his ribbons and had his uniforms and had his shirt. So all you Marines out there that wonder why drill instructors and people in Marine bands shirts always look so good, here is the dirty secret. Now that I'm retired, I can tell you. They wear garters and suspender straps underneath their Charlies and then going down their legs to hold their socks up, but pull their shirt straight down so you can see that crease.
That's right.
And I got to tell you, if you ever see him with his pants off, you can launch him as a crossbow arrow and stick through that officer or that drill instructor his pointy cap into a piece of plywood. They got so many bong garter belts on a drill instructor you shake a stick at. And I know the band guys, AJ's laughing, do it when it's an important one where you got to look good. You got to look good. Where some Marines always look best uniform in the Marine Corps. Anyway, that's a great Wayne Rollins story. We go up there. We finish there at Pohang and say we got to go up to Korea and visit CFC Korea. And so we fly into K2 and really nice in Korea. Downtown Korea traffic is the only worst city I know in the world is Cairo. You get in downtown Cairo, it's bumper to bumper. You got to get out of the way for Big Red. Big Red in Cairo is a double-decker bus.
Right.
And there the ton rule wins. The ton rule, lady, is if that truck or bus weighs more tons than you, he has the right of way. That's their rule.
It makes
Korea,
sense.
Downtown Seoul is just to get K2 is like, 25 kilometers away, right? That'd be a 2.5 hour drive, non-rush hour. So the Army is set up helo service. It's like Uber. You get off the jet and you walk over to this little tower. They got a waiting room. And if you're a 2-star general, boom, Huey cranks up with a warrant officer and flies you to downtown Seoul to the barracks there. It's called Yongsong. And there's a little, inside the walled area, there's a helipad. There's a Marine 2-star on that staff that's the C5J5. C5 means combined staff for allies. J5 means joint staff for America plans. And on that 4 stars staff is a permanent Marine 2-star down in a skiff because he's the war plans guy. And generally it's a post 2-star command or 1-star command if you had the 1st Division.
Right.
Or the 3rd Wing, not the 3rd Wing, 1st Wing. 3rd Marine Division's on Oki. 1st Wing is up at Iwakuni, Japan. The planning officer's a Marine. He would send his gunny down Sedan to pick you up. He would know you're going to see the general. And first time it's an office call, you got to go meet the new boss. The O plan is 1027. That's the number of the Korean O plan. If I tell you any more, I got to kill you. The 4-star at the time is just an unbelievable warrior. He claims he's 5'10". I think he was on a good day with lifters in there. I said 5'10", 4'10". On a good day, he might have been 4'6".
Oh, wow.
His name was General Gary Luck. Luck. And he was every school anybody had ever been to in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was airborne ranger, pathfinder, helo driver, uh, Korea War vet, Vietnam 3 times, special operator in Vietnam at
Wow.
MACV SOG. Now he's up as the 4-star up there. He's, of course, is a ranger, 82nd Airborne.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure he was a division commander. And we go into his office, and the the building in Yongsong is made out of poured concrete, 4-foot walls
Mm-hmm.
at angles.
Okay.
That's because the city of Seoul is 50 miles from the DMZ, and
Right.
you're inside the North Korea artillery fan. And so the headquarters building above ground is built to stand maybe the first or second volley and
Mm-hmm.
give you time to get in a car or helo and get out of Dodge or to get underground.
Right.
But it's got a nice glass window that overlooks the parade deck. He's got a small parade deck, square area. Got a big mahogany desk, double couches, coffee table in the middle, and a barren room. Nothing on the walls, so surprising.
Hmm.
Uh, and except for one picture on the main pillar across from his desk, next to looking out on the grinder on the thing, and it's of a soldier standing there as a doughboy with a tin doughboy helmet with that little
Yeah.
round, looked like a bowl of soup top, and it is jauntily tilted at 75 degrees, right?
Uh-huh.
In a Springfield, I think it's a Springfield rifle with a bayonet on the end of it.
Uh-huh.
He's got leggings on over his boots, the outside mud leggings, and
Mm-hmm.
got his war belt, his H harness, and his cartridge belt. And we sit down, and it's, the 2 generals and myself, and it's the new general's introduction. The old general knows he can't talk when General Luck's talking. Nobody can.
Right.
So Luck welcomes him. You want coffee, blah, 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 and all the nice, where are you from? And, hey, Wayne, I know everything about you. You're Force Recon, and you're cool, and you got all the sit-ups, and just love giving him a bunch of crap, right? So
Yeah.
only a 4-star can do to a 2-star, but on nature. And he points up to the soldier on the wall. Do you know who that is? Wayne looks up there, and Wayne's a Southern boy. He's from Georgia. He could turn it on when he wanted to. Now, son. But he looks old, and he looks ornery. Wayne. So then Luck turns on. Wayne, that's my dad in World War One.
Wow.
Wayne looks up there and says, "Wow, sir, just what you did." He says, "And Wayne, my dad was in the 6th Marines. Do you know what that means?" And Wayne says, "Yeah, Belleau Wood, 6 Marines." He goes, "So you know what that means? I trust Marines and like Marines better than I do soldiers." I don't think he'd ever tell soldiers that.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing stuff, when you tell me something, one, I'm going to believe you. When you make a recommendation, we're going to do it because I trust you. Because my dad was a Marine. I mean, that was the
Wow.
opening. And so I'm a baby colonel here, and from a cultural point of view and a respect point of view, and now that I've seen what happens when you get inside the Washington Beltway and the services fight over budgets, stab each other in the back.
Right.
They don't do that when you go to war. They support each other. But there is inter-service rivalry over the budget. There is backstabbing, and there's inter-service rivalry in peacetime war plans, because the war plans are positioning your unit for the war, kind of like back when we were talking Desert Shield and Colonel Chuck Lohman had the inside scoop, grabbed Al Jubail port in Saudi Arabia because he knew it was the best port, best location for the Marines. He had the knowledge. He raised his hand first and spoke for the Marine Corps as a colonel and took that port. And part of the great MPF offload, they got the Marine Corps there first. We had to feed the 82nd Airborne out of our MRE rations that came off MPF. When they flew in and said, "We're here," yeah, you buddies are here, with 1 day ammo and no food.
Oh, geez.
Anyway, I shouldn't say anything because after 30 days, the Army takes over our food. So we get our food from the Army after 30 days. So, you know, there's only one supply chain. There's not. I shouldn't go down supply chain rat holes. There are lots of supply chains at the tip of spear. For efficiency, the military tries to bring it back to one big efficient one, run by Transportation Command when it's a operational plan someplace in the world going to effect. So there is jockeying for position, and one of the reasons the Marines keep that C5, J5 Marine General Officer slot on the Korean Combined Joint Staff. If we ever gave it up, we would lose stuff in the plan.
Yeah.
Stuff we want. Like, hey, Port of Pohang. How about making that a Marine port? I think the Marines have been there once. Oh, and we already got an airfield and a base camp there. We should write it in the plan that that's a Marine Corps place, not somebody else. And then we have a lot of officers and staff NCOs that know how to get from the port of the airfield to Mr. Kim's, right? So, so you're ready for the war.
That's right.
Anyway, back. I don't know if I'm talking too much about Okinawa. A great place to live. Whatever, 119 times 3.5. I stayed there 3.5 years.
Very nice.
And became a guru in exercise planning. I don't know if that's good or bad. Had a lot of great teachers. And what you do is take the lessons learned for the exercises and take it down to your plan shop. In 3MEF, we had a Colonel G5 that keeps the classified plans. And when you learn something, you want to change the plan. And of course, it takes everybody and his brother's vote to change the plan. But you got to start with a plan. You know, when the first round goes out downrange, everybody says the plan goes out the window. That's kind of true down at the rifle squad, company level, small unit. Big picture level, you got a big picture, solid plan. A lot of those things like tip fit and supply flow start falling into place. And we've got a lot of good people, a lot of years doing a lot of it. So now, the big strategic plan, which is the national security strategy, that's the strategy written in the basement of the White House by the NSA. That strategy leads to the That's the NSS, if you're collecting acronyms. That leads to the National Defense Strategy. That's written in the building, a 5-sided puzzle palace known as the Pentagon. When it was first built, it was the largest office building in the world. I do not know if it still holds that distinction. If you're a retiree or a veteran and you're in D.C. and want a good tour, there's an open to the public tour of the Pentagon. You can take the Washington, D.C. Metro, which is an underground subway, above ground, to the Pentagon.
Right.
Go upstairs to the visitor center. If you're a history guy or a military guy, it's a good place to take your teenage son or daughter. Good tour.
Now, do you know if on the civilian tour, if they can go to all the different hallways, like the Marine hallway, the Army hallway, things like that?
They can't go to the outside that person's office hallway. So like each of the generals has that hallway that's outside their office on the E-ring, and the E-ring, E-offices look outward to an outdoor view. They do have tours that get to very good dioramas of each of the armed forces' history. So the general tours to the general public that go once an hour on the clockwork, and there are 30 people or 40 in a follow this tour person on a microphone, hit the 5 services, well, maybe 6 if we get the space bubbas. I haven't been
have a hallway. I've been to
it. They hit the hallways with some history, but unless you're doing something special, you're not going to get outside the commandant's door. I don't know why we went to the Pentagon. Supposed to be back in Okinawa working on plans.
That's funny.
And I lost where that whole thing was. Well, we did plans to learn how to do plans, so that's really good. Finish up my tour, right? And
three and a half years there.
Got to eat great Sunday brunch. Except for the big exercises. 3 big exercises a year. Ulchi Focus Lens UFL up in Korea. War game simulation plus CFC Korea exercise.
Right.
Plus units moving, plus that's a couple weeks you got to go up with the staff and work it. The trip to Australia is a couple weeks. Somebody has to go. Man, the 3 MEF at the time was one of the MEFs that provided support to the 7th Fleet. And so the 7th Fleet had a joint task force on the command ship, the USS Blue Ridge, and that joint task force had all services in the plan, and the joint task force worked directly for the Army 4-star under the joint umbrella. Under the Navy umbrella, the 7th Fleet, you had to go backwards, worked for Pacific Fleet 4-star in Hawaii. So the Korea workaround was Gary Luck would deal with the 3-star admiral on the Blue Ridge by talking to him with his, we call him wearing hats.
Yeah.
So he put his joint hat on. So General Luck would become the Joint Commander Korea, and talked to the Joint Task Force Afloat Commander Korea. And when we were there with a 3-star submariner named Archie Clemens, and old Archie, brilliant, was great computer guy in the Navy. And when he got there, you know, he hit it off with Wayne and I, and Wayne was his military Marine commander in one plan. So he just turned around to Wayne one day and said, "Hey, I want Fallon to be the J3 for the Joint Staff." And I'm going like this to
No.
I'm the G3 of the MEF.
Yeah.
The MEF has to provide units to all these countries. I don't want to be the J3, but old Archie, he wanted it. And Wayne's the type of guy, if you were a senior flag officer and you asked him for something or wanted something, he only had one answer. So it turned out to be good. I became the J3C3 for the afloat force.
Okay.
And it just really pissed off the N3, which was the Navy captain. So he was the N3 for the Navy component. He
Right.
could tell the Navy guys what to do, but he couldn't tell the Marines, the joint, or the combined guys what to do. And the admiral before him was a Navy admiral and kept his chief of staff in charge of the joint staff. And his
Right.
N3 was N3J3C3,
Oh, wow.
which was a little incestuous
Mm-hmm.
because he got to tell himself to do the stuff he wanted to do
Right.
and then tell other people to do the stuff you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the don't want to do stuff is hard stuff. The stuff a lot of those guys want to do is the protocol stuff
Mm-hmm.
where you go and to a country and the ship docks and you get the embassy cocktail circuit and
Right.
one ambassador circuit rather than the training circuit. The they had a good story about the Blue Ridge, but it's left my mind right now. We actually took her one year. So UFL is the big ultra focus lens, the big exercise in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
The annual one in Thailand was a fly-in exercise most of the time
Okay.
called Cobra Gold, and it had been going for
Mm-hmm.
22 years, which now means it's been going for 44 years.
Right.
And then Australia had a couple of them, and this is pre-Darwin rotation force. Now the Marine Corps has a permanently stationed force in Darwin, Australia, which is a very small port on the north coast of the continent, directly 2,000 miles more or so, maybe more. Sydney on the southeast coast.
Mm-hmm.
Big airfield there, very strategic location. We now have a rotational force there that's a MAGTAF,
Mm-hmm.
Marine Air Ground Task Force. The squadrons from Iwakuni go down and train there. Some of the best aviation training ranges in the world, simply because the whole center of Australia, you look at a map of Australia as a football, and if
Right.
you look at the center of the football is a desert. The center of the desert is an oasis called Alice Springs. They get water and fuel at. But the northeastern parts are swamp. The rest is
Mm-hmm.
desert. Big aviation ranges. And only place in the world I know, the old EA-6B A6 Grumman aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
So the EA is electronic attack aircraft. And the A6 Grumman was a long haul, stay in the air a long time, 32 250-pound bombs.
Wow.
But the version that became the EA6, they replaced it with fuel pods and electronic warfare pods, and it could jam the dog shit out of anybody. And of course, jamming, it can also collect.
Yeah.
You know, electronic warfare is a three-way street: attack, defend, listen.
Right.
Jamming is just about power. Well, if you turn your power on anywhere in the continental United States, 9 times out of 10, if you go on the rheostat from 1 to 2, and your rheostat and power goes to 10, and your waveform gets wider, every waveform has waveforms next to us. If you went to San Clemente Island and you were trying to jam something just to practice electronic warfare and blue bombs, and you had it on setting 0.5 in the day and you made a mistake, they'd put it on 1.5 because you were in the cockpit of your EA6 and didn't put your bifocal lenses on because you were the electronic warfare officer. You just shut down every TV station in Los Angeles. And let me tell you something. When you do that, the Marine Corps hears about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shit rolls downhill. So the only place you can jam full on and then try to fly into it that I personally know of, and my knowledge now is 1995 knowledge.
Right.
So I'm safe that I'm not saying anything, was in the middle of Australia because there was no TV station in those days at Alice Springs.
Okay.
Shit, Alice Springs has now got 40,000 people.
Oh,
they
wow.
Probably today, they used to only have 40 people.
No kidding. Wow.
But now it's a real town. The reason I know this is the MEF was in charge of negotiating. When you go to any country, you have to negotiate a SOFA. No, ladies, that's not what you sleep on. A SOFA is a status of forces agreement. And that's a treaty between your country and what country A, Australia, that says this is how we're going to treat each other's citizens in each other's military in our home country.
Right.
So it's like a quid pro quo, and it's what allows the Navy and the Marine Corps, if a sailor or a Marine, God forbid, got drunk on Libo, instead of staying 30 days in a Japanese or an Australia jail, allows them to release them to us, where we will do with their charges, do legal action.
Right.
So the SOFA is one treaty. It's usually in place for a long period of time, pretty well understood by port authorities and people that visit. The other treaty is training. And in the Australian United States training treaty, when you go to a training range, oh, by the way, it's just like using our National Guard ranges. You pay by the hour.
Oh, wow.
And when you go to a flight range, you pay by the hour, by the aircraft, and by the decibel. So you put in your training plan 2 EA6s coming down to light up Eastern Australia to decibel 10 because you want to test if you can attack through it. You better come with a big checkbook. Unbelievable.
Makes sense.
Unbelievable. So tandem thrust was one of the big exercises down there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a training area on the eastern side of Australia that is like 10 Camp Pendletons. The Australian
Wow.
Army owns 200 miles of the Middle Eastern coastline, the barrier islands, the swamp and the piney forest. Think piney forest, just like Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point. A forest that nobody wanted when the Australian Army got it, just like when we got Cherry Point and Camp Lejeune. Nobody
Right.
wanted. There's a reason enlisted Marines call Camp Lejeune the swamp. It's because it really is the swamp. If you
Yeah.
go to any training ranges and it rains a half inch, you're standing in 2 inches of water.
Oh yeah.
Shoalwater Bay is the big bay in eastern Australia. That's a training range that has live fire training for everything. So in a combined arms exercise
Yeah.
with the Navy and the Air Force, we can do an amphibious landing there, shoot live naval gunfire,
Mm-hmm.
live 250-pound bombs, take an island, put an artillery battery on it, shoot Marine arty,
Mm-hmm.
land on the beach, shoot Marine machine guns,
Right.
do live, it's like Delta Corridor, live fire with water.
Mm-hmm.
Shoalwater Bay training area. Man, what a great training area. The town and by the only gate to get, there's 3 gates to get in, but the main gate. There's no base there. Shoalwater Bay is controlled by a Australia Army warrant officer, lives in a cabin there with his wife. He's like a game warden. And when you go there, you got to negotiate for training days,
Yeah.
look at his schedule, see if anybody else is using a part of the bay
Right.
or inland or one of the ranges. If not, okay, mate, he'll write you in and then tell you how much money he gets to collect from you.
Wow.
Yeah, great place. South of that, the port city, south of Shoalwater, is Brisbane. It's a
Mhm.
big coal port, big coal mines in eastern Australia, big industrial port.
Right.
North is a small port called Townsend. Townsend is inside the reef. Now,
Okay.
inside the reef at most atolls and islands, you're outside the reef, you can see the port, and there's a break in the reef.
Mm-hmm.
If you're outside the reef at Townsend, you're 40 nautical miles out. And then when you come in the channel, you got 20 miles in the channel before you're in the bay. If you hook a left or a south in the bay, coming in a left, you go down 2 or 3 bays, you're in Shoalwater Bay. Then you come into Townsend Harbor, 1995 issued, maybe 20,000, I don't know. But you're looking for the number one. The number one, you were waiting for it, scuba diving place in the world.
That's
The
it.
reef you just went through was the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
And it runs for 3,000 miles north to south. It's 20 to 40 miles off of the coast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to get to in those days. Even
Right.
today you got to be rich to do a dive there,
Hmm.
which means it's pristine.
Yeah.
Us ugly Americans and freelanders haven't polluted the place. You know? So
Right.
when you join the great United States Navy and Marine Corps and you stick around, you do get to dive the world. And so one of my highlights of my tour, I got to dive the Great Barrier Reef with a great Marine Corps intel officer named Mike Ennis. He was my Australia dive buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Big Mike Ennis played basketball for everybody. Brilliant Marine, spoke fluent Russian,
Wow.
multiple tours in the embassy at Russia, a couple tours at the agency on the non-shooting side, the brain side.
Right.
The agency's got the Rock Ape side, and a lot of Marines on the ground side end up. And then
Mm-hmm.
they got the brain side. I think Mike was deputy director for operations, retired as I want to say Marine Major General Mike Ennis, super guy. Anyway,
Hmm.
we got to scuba dive Great Barrier Reef together. One of my lifetime memories of why you always want to be a Marine.
Yeah.
Dive the world. Don't know that we did a
What
lot
a
of.
place to do it. The Great
Yeah,
Barrier Reef, though, beautiful.
beautiful place. We're down there with 7th Fleet Command Ship. That year, for that exercise, we rolled down there as the Marine component of that command ship.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say there were 28 or 30 naval ships from like 12 countries.
Wow.
Singapore. It's Noah's Ark. Everybody brings, destroyer, escort, destroyer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had 5 or 6 submarines.
Wow.
A lot of Marine and Army participation, big exercise. And we were going to run the exercise, the joint combined.
Mm-hmm.
So the joint combined staff, it was combined with the Aussies, came onto the Blue Ridge, which meant everybody was hot bunking it. The
Right.
Aussie commander was a Australian naval officer who had the rank of Commodore, which I think in the Australian Navy is like 1.5. I mean, 1 star is an admiral and a 2 star is an admiral, but in between is a Commodore. But
Mm-hmm.
inside the Australian Navy, which was, not that big, not that many admirals, and he was an old-time Commodore. And boy, he knew his stuff on the ocean.
Yeah.
Anyway, we did all 3 planning conferences, got a big landing in Shoalwater Bay, big exercise. And the first phase of any naval exercise is called phase 0 planning. Then the
Mm-hmm.
first phase is phase 1. Wow. Roman numeral 1 is called the transit phase. And that's everybody leaves home port and drives in your ship to get
Right.
there. But you play war games en route because, in theory, so, that's when you can run submarines.
Mm-hmm.
For 1 week, can play a red submarine. For 1 week, can play a green submarine. 1 week can play blue. And then you can run a submarine exercise against each other. But,
Right.
the surface ships and the aircraft like to go against submarines.
Mm-hmm.
You got a lot of open ocean. In the transit phase, you can do that.
Right.
So we're going in the transit phase, and we get down. Blue Ridge comes down. They were nice enough to do what we call a drive-by, 1,500 miles south of Tokyo. We fly on board from Okinawa, get on the Blue Ridge, and I think we had 4 or 5 sailing days. Had a Liberty Day in Hong Kong.
Nice.
Another reason to be in the Navy or the Marine Corps. So we get down there on the other side of the Indonesia island chain.
Mm-hmm.
And in every brief, every staff has a morning brief and the afternoon brief. 8 o'clock and 5 o'clock, they just put you to sleep. Lots of people try to tell jokes, and there's always a joke contest, which, does the logistics team, and there are different junior officers, mid-grade officers, depending on how important what day of the week it is.
Right.
Briefing, and at the end of any good exercise, there's there's awards for good and bad when you're on a 60-day exercise together and a joint staff. You got to make it. You got to make it fun.
Yeah.
Every exercise, every brief joint combined that I've been on, brief lead off, never seen anywhere else, is weather. And a lot of times, you're in Arizona, same forecast every day.
Yeah.
Visibility 0, 300, 52 days you can fly. That's why flight training's here.
Yeah.
For the Joint Strike Fighter, for the Marine F-35. But when you're at sea, and when you're in the Southern Ocean, in the Southern Pacific Ocean, well, they called it a cyclone. I think we call them a hurricane. So they started, we got on one side of the Indonesian islands, and this thing is like 10 days away. It's out there by Bora Bora somewhere, but it's coming. It's headed west.
Yeah.
And it's spinning, so it's a cyclone. And all the weather people, they're all excited. They got something to brief. Everybody's going to sleep on it, except Commodore Cox. The guy's name was Cox, C-O-X. And on the second, and he almost slept through every brief. He said, and to say he was heavy set with a white bell-bottom plumber's trousers,
nice.
being gracious to the good Commodore in a mixed sex staff. Anyway, Commodore Cox, he started sitting up for the weather brief.
Yeah.
And then, like on 5 days out, he started asking weather questions and stumping the weather person.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was an Australian, sometimes in New Zealand, sometimes an American.
Right.
Usually a senior chief or a lieutenant. Finally, Cox says, the morning brief, weather brief, will be by the senior weather forecaster with the best analyst next to him every morning. We're talking weather. So now they get some lieutenant commander, limited duty New Zealand weather officer who Cox knows by a first name basis, right?
Yeah.
Well, Freddie, how come you haven't been here telling me what's going on with me? And they had a number for it. And Freddie would say, Commodore, it's coming. And the Commodore would say, I can see it. And the Commodore would say, nobody's going to believe you, Freddie. And Freddie would say, Commodore, it's going to be the biggest one in 20 years. Just like that one we had back in 1970 something.
Yeah.
And they would do this Mutt and Jeff thing, and you didn't know if they were serious or not. We get 3 days out, and this thing's moving now. I want to say it's picked up. It's doing 30 knots or something. And at the morning brief, the Commodore looks over at the 3-star U.S. Admiral and says, Commodore's Deputy Combined Forces, Archie Clemens is the Commander Combined Forces, so U.S., Australian. He says this thing's going to hit, it's either going to hit Shoalwater Bay or Townsend, one or the other. And us Australians hope it hits Shoalwater Bay because we only got to evacuate Warrant Officer Petrie.
Yeah.
Commodore Cox knew Petrie.
Yeah.
One evacuation. We don't have to evacuate the town. But he said, we got to cancel the exercise.
Oh, geez.
Well, boy, I thought the Admiral was going to take a second chest wound. So the Admiral said, We'll talk about it tonight at the nightly brief. You know, it's the old Dean Smith four corners stall. When you don't know what to say, we got time to delay, right? Old
Right.
Dean Smith, the classic basketball coach, University of North Carolina, invented the four corners stall where he put four guards in each of the four corners. Reason they invented the time clock in college basketball was Dean Smith would put one tall guy in the middle. He'd keep four guards out and wouldn't give you the ball. So Archie goes, we'll talk about it at noon. So at lunch, I'm in there at lunch with him with a couple of Navy captains, and he said, they're all saying, we got to cancel the exercise. So finally, Archie asked me, he says, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, one, I don't think we should cancel because, we all came a long way. We did a lot of planning. I said, two, I think this is kind of real world stuff. Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? And, the N3 over here said, we have to have a dispersion plan to get the ships. Yeah, I think earlier I told you it was like 30 ships. Great Barrier Reef is 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
There's 30 ships outside the Great Barrier Reef. You got to first get to a port. Well, there's Townsend, might hit Townsend. There's Brisbane. Right now, it's 1,000 miles, and there's Sydney. you got to crank her up.
Yeah.
Or you got to turn around and go back into Indonesia, right?
Right.
Which some of the ships. So I said, I think somebody, I don't know who it is, Admiral, has to put together the get out of town plan for the ships. And the Admiral turned around and first named the N3 and said, I want to see it before midnight, all 30 ships. Because harbors have capacity, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot of planning. And I said, in a shooting war, if Cyclone came, this is what we do. And guess what? We got all these planes flying in. So we had one U.S. carrier in the exercise. We had ferry dusted two other carriers so we could fly in Navy, Marine Corps aircraft from Australia. So when you ferry dust an air, you say the airfield at Darwin is the USS Darwin, and she's an aircraft carrier. Well, we had airplanes coming to Townsend Airfield, the Brisbane Airfield. We got to get air. So you got to turn to the air boss, who is on this joint thing was an Australian Air Force colonel. I think he's a 1-star. A disperse plan.
Right.
And then I said, okay. So we had the transit phase. We just introduced a new phase. We'll call it 1 alpha dispersion. And it's going to take whatever the weather takes. And I said, sir, we'll have 1 Bravo. The come together, and we'll look at how many days we got left. It was a 2-week exercise. So we're going to lose training days in the middle, but making these guys disperse and come back is better than training. But if we call it training and take credit for training, this will be the best exercise everybody had. And when we come together, we can do a drive-by with the fleet and the airplanes, Shoalwater Bay. Everybody can drop a bomb, check a box. We can all. So that's what we did. It was great training.
Nice.
It was real world. Everybody got to exercise. A lot of times in a joint exercise, there's too much top down, too many layers of command on different nations over supervising. Because this cyclone was so big and massive, the planes and the ships and the infantry people riding on ships or flying in on transport from Australia, New Zealand, U.S.,
Right.
they all had to go somewhere and they all had to come back like a yo-yo. So it was a great uh, exercise in Shoalwater Bay that year. And Commodore Cox went down as a legend because he predicted the weather. Him and Freddie won the awards for the best two comedy teams. They were good comedy acts. I mean, you get there one Wednesday, you're out in the middle of the ocean, and the log bubbas come in all dressed up in hula skirts and ukulele trying to sing a song. I mean, when the Navy's out at sea a lot, that's why you have all these crossing the equator games and different Neptune ranks and
Right.
all that good stuff. So when you get to work in what I call the deployed Marine Corps, 1/3 of the Marine Corps is deployed.
Uh-huh.
80% of that 1/3 of the Marine Corps works for the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force, and they're deployed every day. So in peacetime,
Mm-hmm.
outside the United States, I personally believe you get better training
Mm-hmm.
because we got the Porta-John rule inside the United States.
Right.
Marine can't dig a cat hole, take a pee or take a shit. Marine can't
Mm-hmm.
shoot here because 20 years ago, a round skipped over the berm and went in some lady's vegetable garden and poked out an avocado, and the Marine Corps got sued from
Yeah.
Fallbrook suing over avocados at Camp Pendleton. You can still train good in overseas,
Yeah.
and you can still see places that if you from Shreveport, Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and you go on Liberty in Pattaya, Thailand,
Mm-hmm.
you will see something different than Shreveport.
Yeah. Very
Young
true.
man. And when you get home and get out for the rest of your life, you can say, I didn't shovel shit in Louisiana.
Yeah.
I went to Pattaya, Thailand, and got to eat chicken on a stick. And it was great Pattaya chicken.
Yeah.
Or other great events that broaden your cultural mind
Mm-hmm.
as a young individual overseas.
Absolutely.
AJ, you've let me run on. I should stop now and take a cup of coffee. I'm in my coffee mug still, and see if you got questions.
Well, I don't really have a whole lot of questions right now, but I do think that maybe this is a good time to kind of pause it and come back again. Does that sound good to you?
I was thinking that because I'm kind of run out of Okinawa stories that I can tell in public, and um, I'm getting ready to be transferred. And anybody that stuck it out is probably waiting for this old fart to retire. I think I can get to retirement in the next episode, but then AJ's going to have to decide if we do Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not sure I want to do. This is Iraq 2 or 3, depending on how we count it. Afghan
Yeah.
2 or 3. We'll definitely do Okinawa. I was there 94 to end of 97.
Okay.
Got 2 more years to go. Gonna get me retired on the next episode.
Very
So
nice.
we'll make that call when we get there, or AJ will pull the plug and you'll never see me again. So
Oh
thanks
no,
for another great afternoon,
you'll be
AJ.
back for sure. But now, before we go, one more thing. Don't forget about your book, Hill 119, coming out in August. That's not too far away. They can go ahead and pre-order it. So if you want to talk about that for a second.
I would just tell you that you can order it from Casemate Publisher at their website. If you cut a deal on your history buff, you can save some money. You can order it in the UK from Pen and Sword, and I'll bring it next time. I got my first copy.
Oh, nice.
It dropped in the UK. The book was published by Casemate in the UK on 15 June. So Pen and Sword is a history warfighters book outlet in the UK. So I bought my copy of my own book from their website.
Right.
And paid £10. Ladies, that's $15 to ship it to myself.
Oh.
They printed it in England. That's why it's a 15 August drop here. It's got to get to the Amazon distribution websites. And so right now, my bride's reading it and looking at the pictures. And for all you Marines that need pictures, it's got 52 color pictures, 14 maps, and 10 sketches. So you don't have to read any of the words. It just is a picture book. So 15
Very
August.
nice.
The other place you can order is on Amazon. Hill 119, Recon OP, 1969-70. The author is Fallon. Thank you, AJ.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on and doing this. And Mike, don't hang up on me whenever I do this spiel. I want to talk to you after. But to all the listeners out there, if you're struggling, need help, anything like that, don't forget the VA has some great resources. You can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255, or you can go to veteranscrisisline.net and click on that chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. Mike cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to the buddies you served with, ask them how they're doing. And if they need that helping hand, please give it to them. Mike, thank you one last time. To all the listeners, stay motivated, change your socks.